This is the Real Life Diary Show. I'm your host, Katie. Check it out. Real Life Diaries, everybody. We are on the series Feed Your Femininity, episode 2. And with us, I have my special guest, Miss Hannah Rose. I'm happy that you're here. Hi. Why are you so passionate about this topic?
Okay, so I'm very passionate about the topic. I love talking about this because I really believe in it. I really believe in just embracing your femininity. I believe in the feminine and the masculine both together. I think that they are so beautiful, and I think they're a part of a greater design and created to work together. And so I think that when we lose track of that and we start to think of them as opposing forces, um, or when we step outside of our design,
Mhm.
then therein lies the conflict. That's when the conflict comes in. And
Right.
so I think it's so powerful to really just acknowledge the beauty of the design.
Has it been something that you were always really aware of, like growing up, like, oh, I'm feminine, I have this design, these are my strengths? Or is it something that you learned, you know, throughout life or at a certain point?
I think actually I was really confused about it for a long time and what it meant, what it meant to be feminine, what it meant to really like what a woman was supposed to be or look like. Because I was raised by a very feminine mom. She's a wonderful cook. She cares for people. She's a nurturer, born to be a mom. She has seven
Wow.
kids, just all things feminine. So
Love
she is
that.
like the epitome of a soft, wonderful, feminine woman who cares and nurtures the people around her. But then I also grew up in the world, in public school where we talked about, they talked about feminism and they talked about, and we've grown up in second and third wave feminism, where it's like, woman is the same as a man, and
Right.
I have two different
Right.
things in my life. And I don't think it was until really I got married that I really started to uncover what that was, what femininity to me was, what it was to the Lord. And because I was in a marriage now, when we got married, I had to kind of figure out, okay, what's my role? What does it look like as a woman? What's my role in this marriage? What does God say about it?
Yeah.
I was raised in the church, and so I always had the influence, and I just wasn't sure. I never really took a deep dive into it until I got married, and it, I had to kind of tap into what that actually meant.
Yeah.
Um,
Same.
so
Me too. Me too. What are some ways that, you feed your femininity now? You've been married for what, 10 years?
10 years.
Okay.
10 years in May, so we're coming up on it. It's pretty wonderful. I feed my femininity in a lot of ways, and really, it feels maybe sometimes it even feels less of a feeding and more of just like an overflow. Because I was raised by a woman who was just like
That's so good.
femininity, and so I feel like some of it
Where
comes
is
from.
she? Is she back there anywhere? No.
Oh my gosh.
You
Yeah,
gonna have
she
her on.
gives some good stories and some good talking points. But where I feel most feminine is really when I love to cook. I
Yeah.
love to take care of my home. I love to decorate. I love to garden. I love to create beautiful things.
Yeah.
I love to bring beauty to wherever I am if I can, but ultimately I love caring for my husband. I love taking care of my husband. I love, feeding him. I love cooking for him. And I like to have, I try to have food on the table. We're fostering two twins right now.
You
And
guys.
and with hopes of making them permanent family members. And
Guys,
so,
you guys have to hear, that's like a whole side note, but you guys have to hear that whole story someday. And I hope that maybe you'd be willing to share it. It's miraculous. Someday maybe we'll talk about some of those things,
I would
because
love to. I would really love to. I think it's a story of hope, a story of redemption, and we have walked with the Lord through some really hard things, but He's always been there. And so I remember reading like my mom's like home and garden magazines when I was little, and I would just gush over these gardens. I'm like 5 years old, and I'm just like, one day I'm gonna have a garden, and
oh,
now I do.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
just kind of like, and I would go and take in my parents' garden, I would go and I would carry a little basket and pick flowers and gather little things and
Gosh, Hannah,
rocks and stuff like that. But like that's something God put in my heart
so cute.
when I was little. When I was little, and then with adoption too, I had a best friend, and when I was in first grade, who was adopted, and that since then is stuck in my heart. And so,
Hmm.
He puts things in your heart sometimes when you're really little, and you don't know how they're gonna evolve over time and how He's gonna bring those
Wow.
talents out as a grown adult. or qualities or whatever. And it's just, I just think he's just pretty awesome. It's pretty crazy. But we talked about the Proverbs 31 women. I mean, she does like a ton of stuff. She's got it all. She's a wife with noble character. She brings her husband good and no harm. Like she works with eager hands. She provides food and clothing for her family. She brings honor to her husband. He's honored in the community because of the honor she brings to him. It's really beautiful. And like you said, she's clothed in strength and dignity. She laughs at things in the future. It means she has great faith. She has huge faith, where she can laugh at the future and say, oh, no, don't worry about it. My God's got it. I think that's one thing about the Proverbs 31 woman is that she's a multiplier. She multiplies, everything she puts her hand to, she gains a profit and then she, reinvests the profit. She just adds and adds and adds into everybody. And she does it with a full heart and an overflowing cup. I think that's one thing that's so beautiful about it too.
I think the key for me for being a multiplier is the wisdom aspect of it. The Proverbs 31 woman, she does all of these things. But when we're operating in wisdom, it's like having insider information. So the Lord might be saying, pick this up right now and do this and put this down. And because you picked up, because you were obedient and you did what the Lord said to do, that multiplies, that blesses your family, that blesses your husband, that blesses your life. So it
Mhm.
might be you're in a season of wiping boogers and butts for 3 years, but the Lord's like, hey, gives you a dream, go invest in this. Oh, okay, you invest in it, it takes off. Let's say you're a breadwinner and you lost your job, and the Lord's like, I want you to extend your tent pegs and move and be in this new location. And that doesn't make any sense in the natural mind, but your husband trusts you, hopefully, and you do it. That brings in the breaker anointing where you're gonna break through some things. Maybe it's like a poverty mindset, or you have lack in your life that breaks off because of your obedience in Lord. You do something that looks crazy in the natural, right?
Right.
And that's the wisdom that I'm talking about. That's the key to be a multiplier for me. The Proverbs 31 woman, I'm sure she wasn't doing all of those things every single day, but she was picking up, setting down, throwing away exactly what the Lord told her what to do and when to do it. She was in unity with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Lord.
exactly. And there's a season for it all, right? I mean, it might seem like a ton, but when you are operating in your design, you're operating in who God called you to be and what God called you to be. There's grace to achieve.
That's
There's
so
grace
good.
to, the Proverbs 31 is multifaceted, multi-talented, and you might not feel like you have all the different talents or whatever, but if you step into that with faith and say,
Yeah,
Lord, I'm going to be obedient and I'm going to try this because I know that you're calling me to it and I'm going to do it. He's going to bless you.
and a
And
blessing.
the thing is, it's not going to be work. It's going to be work, but the work is good. The work
So
is
good.
good.
That's a word right there. That's a word right.
A lot of times you think femininity is the way it's depicted in the world or the way it's depicted in society is that it's almost talked about as a weakness. And really it's not at all. It's a fierce strength, like, she was bold. Like Ruth, for her to go lay at the feet of Boaz was bold. She could have been stoned. It was like totally inappropriate. Like she slept at his feet in the banquet hall and like put his cover over her. She slept at his feet, which was putting herself in the position of a servant. And I think that what they did, I think the servant would sleep at the master's feet to keep their feet warm, keep the master's feet warm. And
Wow.
so she put her, I don't know, I could be wrong about that, but she put herself, at his feet and then in the morning she asked her to be her, I think it's kinship redeemer, I think is what it is, but to redeem her, because she was widowed and she needed somebody to like redeem her. And so put herself in this really humble position, but that was a really bold thing to do.
Wow.
You get the bold
Anna,
truth,
humble
right?
and bold.
It takes boldness to be humble sometimes. Sometimes you have to be, boldly humble, which is like seems like such a paradox. It seems like what
I
on earth?
love that.
But like they do work together. And then you think about Esther, who she broke protocol, to go to the king unsummoned. Like that she'd been cut off from the king and never been able to sing and had to or see the king and had to live, her days in obscurity or whatever. That could have happened, or she could have been like beheaded. She could have been killed for that. So, but she did it to save her people. Even she approached the king humbly. So it's like it's so beautiful, and I think it's, you know,
Wow.
femininity and being feminine is more than just like what the world says. The role that these women play in the Bible and in the world, and so it's like if we can kind of grab hold of that and look at it as a strength rather than a weakness and see that, that the feminine and the masculine are not made to fight each other.
Right.
They're made to work together. They're made to build upon each other, and that, we build upon each other's strengths and we call each other higher, right?
So if we're humble hearted, the Lord is he's going to be our defender,
It's
defend
going to be our
us.
promoter. You sit yourself at the lowest seat and let the host promote you. So
Wow.
it's like and this is just like, this is aside from like being feminine, but like we as believers, we sit ourselves at the lowest
Hmm.
position and let the Lord
Do the
promote
rest.
us. Like
Yeah.
we stay humble upon. So I think it's just really beautiful and really powerful. But the way we do that in femininity is, like you said, is honoring our husbands, honoring the role that they play. Like we play an invaluable role in our families, in our lives, in the world, in society, and men do too, And so, working together and honoring each other's roles and not, diminishing each other's roles, I feel like it's really important and really powerful, because if we're diminishing each other's roles, we're diminishing God's design.
Wow.
We're
Yeah.
criticizing, critiquing God's design, and He doesn't do anything that's not perfect. It almost has to be like this shedding of
Hmm.
what the world says about who you are, what femininity is, what your job in this world is, what you should be doing, how you should be living, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We have to shed that, because that's not of God. You're not married and you're trying to prepare for motherhood. I mean, we've been married for 10 years and we're fostering these two babies, but before that, we don't have children. We've had losses, and we've tried for a long time to have a family of our own, and we didn't. And so what did I do? You just keep your hands busy. It's like, that's the Proverbs 31 woman was eager to work. She worked with eager hands. And so,
Amen.
work. There's nothing wrong with
That's
working. Get to
beautiful.
work, like learn new skills, serve your community. If there's somebody in your church that's hurting or needs help, or they just had babies, or they just had, a surgery or whatever, bring them food, bring them a meal, like serve them. Or you hurt yourself, hey, can I come and clean for you? Can I take care of you in some way? And so I think that those are things that, building your skill set, well, first seeking God, building your skill sets, and serving people. That's amazing, because the more skill sets you have, the more people you can serve.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
what are the main points that we hit here? We said women are multipliers, right?
when you're multipliers, I think, yeah, those are the two things I really hope people take away, is that, to one, operate in your design, like, don't be ashamed of it, don't be afraid of it, operate in your design, you know, tap into the things that God's placed in your heart, or the skill sets that He's given you, the talents that He's given, and start operating in that for the glory of the Lord.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the glory of the Lord. And when we do it with the right spirit and with the right heart for the glory of the Lord, that's when He multiplies, and so He multiplies with us and for us, and then He equips us to multiply too. So I think that's so beautiful and it's so powerful. And then also, like, really, my overarching theme is design.
Okay.
And so, another thing I hope that people can kind of think on a little bit is that, maybe our thoughts need to change a little bit about how we think about the masculine and the feminine. Like I said, if we're constantly thinking about the conflict between them, you're going to find conflict. Like, if you're looking for the negative, you're going to find the negative. So, but instead, changing our perspective to see it the way God sees it, and having His eyes, for it, and that He created these things to work in tandem and to work together and in
Yes.
harmony. And it's
Yes.
so beautiful and it's so powerful, and it's, for a purpose. I just hope more women feel empowered by their femininity, and start to see it more as a strength and like a superpower,
It is.
rather than a weakness, because it really is. It's so beautiful, and it's designed perfectly by a perfect creator.
I mean, you're a wealth of wisdom and knowledge and beauty. And maybe we'll do a little tour of the garden. Something fun this summer would be cool because people would love to see it. Yeah, I want you back on like 15 more times. So just get ready. I'm booking you now. We'll talk soon. Thank you for being on.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.